Hello, my name is Thomas Park, and to my knowledge I've invented a new form of music. I call this music Generative Iterative. It can be created using a computer with specific codes, which use chance functions to treat and loop sounds. The compositions are largely loop-related or iterative in nature. The use of mechanized randomized subroutines is what makes the pieces generative. That and the many ways the resulting sounds combine with one another through each track. This music was created in part because I wanted to compose great music. I also wanted to provide a model for using generative without having the processor function as a composer in a direct fashion. Generative iterative works are quite dependent on the sounds used, and further on the possibilities for each sound as the code transforms it into a loop. With an introduction to generative iterative music, it was my goal to provide samples from early, middle, and late periods of creation. There were standout tracks in all phases, and as a whole they represent a gradual evolution into more and more active and determined generative environments, which I realized using Python code. I hope that you are both amused by the pieces and intrigued by their method of composition. Feel free to pick up the baton at any point and run with it. I think that generative iterative music can be a source for nearly infinite audio possibilities. Cheers. Some of the earliest generative iterative pieces were created for and by live internet radio streams, such as Generative Soundscape Radio. GSR was a monster of an application, with different themed shows every 4 hours, and eventually evolving into generative television. The Cobalt tracks were recorded from the GSR stream early one morning. For Garden 6 and Bomb Bells 4, I was supplying a generative mixing code which was offline, a set of sound possibilities for processing and iteration. I used my intuition to choose sounds that might work well together, or in the case of the bells piece, I simply combined sounds that contained the word bell. There was some fun with collages, and an application I called Weird Science. This application harvested sounds using keywords from the internet and mixed them into a sort of randomized, loop-based audio salad, as with Collage Space Throne 4. I wanted to think about returning to classic music, well-known works, and reiterating them. Satie's works were great for this, hence Gymnopedy's Iteration 5. A lot of fun was had when I taught an offline processor and mixer to combine sounds that were completely random. Some of these turned out quite beautiful, such as Probable Music 14. Many versions of dub music were attempted, as with the Dub Machine Electric piece. I felt that dub music lent itself well to generative iterative composition and to loop-based composing in general. There was some thought to creating soundtrack music. Groovy Sidekick provides an example of what I conceived of as music for a bad 1980s detective movie. Irregular music was born from an offline mixing application that created extremely short snippets of sound and looped them somewhat sporadically. Dream 1 was an example of a very fruitful combination of sounds, those being modern classical samples, and samples created by loop magician Robin Story. When combined, these sounds often resulted in captivating world music works. For some time, I used generative as a way to create randomized mixing consoles. Loops would be selected somewhat by chance, processed using any of my methods, and associated with HTML pages that included embedded players, which I could use in live performance. Among other places, these consoles appeared on live FM radio on KDHX-FM on my Synthetic Sound show. Eno was a big systems music figure, and I had the notion to use his shared music for airport sounds, together with some basic dub elements, to create some wonderfully relaxing and modern sounding works. Generative Iterative spawned some amusing side acts such as DJ Iterate and DJ Frankenstone. Frankenstone pieces use darker sounds in their palette, such as in Step 7. A nice set of pieces resulted from my ever more specific mixing environments in tandem with special collections of thematic sounds. Exchange 10 and Modern 10 have an amusing world traveler vibe to them. Possible 10 goes back to an earlier idea of randomizing sounds, but these were applied to the later and more evolved mixing environments. Popular music such as rap, hip-hop, and jazz were referenced in Beat 6 and Electric 5, proving that generative iterative can be great for showcasing musical elements from more urban traditions. A set of glitch sounds combined with dub pads in a very specially balanced generative environment resulted in tracks such as Glitch Noir 13. I return from time to time to playful ideas such as throwing acoustic one-shots and many percussion sounds into a generative iterative mixing situation. Noodle 8 has an eccentric, almost live quality. This has been Thomas Park, and I hope you've enjoyed this documentary as we've discussed the birth and evolution of generative iterative music, particularly through my studio in St. Louis, Missouri. We hope you have a great day.